Okay, good afternoon everyone. I'm now going to hand over to Chris Tomlinson. Chris runs his own PT company, but it's with a slight difference. And Chris gets people ready so that they can go and do the adventures that they want to do in their life. So if you want to get fitter to go and do an Everest Base Camp trek or a Kilimanjaro trek, then Chris is the guy to speak to. He's going to explain the process with you now as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, Chris.
Thank you, Keith. Right, guys. Today we're going to go over some brief sort of training tips. We're going to go over sort of like the bases of what's needed in terms of going forward with an adventurous life, what your sort of precipitations and your sort of preparations should be for this sort of thing. But even though it's going to be a presentation from me, I'd obviously like this to be as interactive as possible. Can everyone hear me all right? Is that all right? Yeah. So if you've got any questions, any of the slides which are going on, anything which doesn't make any sense, anything you're unsure about, or you want a little bit more, you want to dig a little bit deeper into, just raise your hand up and obviously we'll go through it and I'll try and explain it a little bit better. Okay? So, for those of you guys that don't know me, this is me. Okay? So this is me in the Alps in September. I've been 17 years as a strength and conditioning coach. In the past I've worked with pro fighters, professional athletes. Majority of people now are going forward for big expeditions, they're going for ultramarathons, they're going for bigger sort of events where they're getting to that point now where they're sort of thinking, do you know what? Now's the time when something big should need to make a change. Okay? So we're looking at things where people are thinking, right, with the bucket list company, I need to go and do Kilimanjaro, I want to go and do base camp, but how do I get there? So I've been 9 years as a CrossFit gym owner, 3 years as a mountain leader. I'm an online functional fitness coach for adventurous people. I'm a father to 2 daughters. One of them's here, Amelia. Stand up, say hello. Come on, wave. Wave to everyone. Okay. So why do I do it? For things like this. In my opinion, guys, this isn't everyone's cup of tea, but I presume the reason that you're here at this expo today, it's probably something that you are interested in. Okay? So it's having the experience and having the capacity to have an adventurous life. It's not just having abs for the sake of it. It's not just putting weight on a bar for the sake of it. It's not just running faster for the sake of it. It's so you've got the capacity to say yes to whatever comes your way, whether that is Everest Base Camp, whether it is Kilimanjaro, whether it is gorge walking, climbing, hiking, whatever it is. If you've got a friend out there that says, do you fancy doing this? The last thing you want to be thinking is, oh, how can I do it? Is it something that I'll be able to do? Is it something I'll be able to achieve? You should just be able to go, yeah, I'll be on it, I can do that. So, this sort of passion for me comes from a bit of a younger age really, and I won't dampen the mood too much, but in about 2015 I lost my granddad. So my granddad was, there we go. So my granddad was my best friend and then my dad was my second best friend. So the same year my dad fell out of bed, broke his neck. So from the neck down he was completely paralysed. Now he was about 45 at the time and he was about 18 stone, 6'2", big fella, and that was his life ambitions, his goals, his one-day plans, all gone. Yeah, so all of those times where he'd said in the past, one day I'd like to do this, one day I'd like to do that, gone straight away. And that's not from his own doing, that was literally falling out of bed when he was asleep. So you never know what's coming on the next day. And it's something which is probably a bit of trauma there, to be honest, but it's something which you'll always stick with if you think, right, no, there's never a one day, that's not going to come. You've got to start taking action as it comes. So the majority of people, when they're preparing for adventures, will spend all the money in the world on the kit round here. They'll prepare as most as they can, but they're not looking after the knees, they're not looking after the hips, they're not looking after the ankles, they're fatiguing on big hikes, they're at the back of big hikes, they're sort of struggling with weight on wild camping and things like that. and wondering sort of, well, how do I improve this? Most people are just going, well, you just need to hike more, you just need to do more of it. And that's an old school methodology. It's not something that we should be looking at now. So, just a raise of hands, who's heard of the term functional fitness? Yeah, ish. Okay, what does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? What do you think it means? Squats and things? Kathy, what do you think? Exercise to allow function of capacity. That's a more accurate answer. So most people, when they look at functional fitness, they think CrossFit, high rocks, kettlebells, dumbbells, throwing things around, wall balls, really fast, high intensity movements. Well, that's not what functional fitness is. Functional fitness is what allows you to function in whatever it is that you do. So if you're a tennis player, then you need to be able to function playing tennis. If you're someone that goes walking or hiking or climbing, you need to function at walking, climbing or hiking. So there's no point in doing exercises which are not functional for those things, which is where most people go wrong, because they see people talk about functional fitness online and they think, well, that's sort of what it is. And that's not what it's all about. So I'm going to explain a little bit more how we can sort of cut things into what functional fitness actually is. So I break things down into three main sort of categories. So in that categories you've got strength, you've got fitness, and then you've got injury, prehab and rehab. Now strength itself is what I would say the most neglected point of the majority of endurance sports and the majority of sort of adventurous sports. People sort of, like I mentioned earlier, runners especially, hikers, mountaineers, they believe that just doing more of whatever they do is better. But therefore, the majority of them that they speak to are always injured. So why is that, Skip? The strength work, which we should outline into our program, protects joints and knees, it carries load. So the more load you can carry on a quad, for example, then the least amount of strain is going to go into the knee joint, the least amount of strain which is going to go into your hips. So the more muscle and strength that you've got specifically around the joints supports the joints itself, which means you've got less pain. Now fitness itself is obviously quite a broad term, but aerobic training in itself, so like the zone 2, zone 3 type stuff, is going to increase mitochondrial density by 50%. So more mitochondria means more better energy production, which means less likelihood of altitude sickness, more chance of enjoying the process of whatever you're doing, the journey of whatever you're doing, and the fact you'll be able to smile when you're actually doing a task or a journey rather than just sort of like accepting it and having that challenge. So the third point, injury, prehab and rehab. Again, this is probably the most boring bit because it's not fun. It's not the sexy sort of pistol squats, it's not the wall balls, it's not the sort of really fun, intense, high intensity stuff. It's the boring stuff really looking at stability. It's the balance work, it's the stuff which is going to help build your tendons, build your ligaments around the joints, which allow you to get stronger long term. So, strength work. Most people don't know how to structure strength work. You just sort of go to the gym, and the majority of people when they start going to the gym start doing a bodybuilding split. So they'll look at something, they'll go, right, Monday chest, Wednesday legs, Friday back, Saturday arms, because they're going to go to the pub afterwards. But realistically, those sorts of things, we're looking at aesthetics with that. It's a bodybuilding style of training specifically to build muscle. We want to be building strength and muscle at the same time. So I like to break things down. There's a few more categories which you can put in, but I like to break things down into a push, pull, hinge and squat. Now these are natural movements. These are things which you'll do every day. These are things which your body will already be used to doing to some capacity, but if you build strength in these areas, this will then allow you to sort of to get stronger and be able to function at a best capacity in your day-to-day life to begin with. Has anybody got any questions so far? Am I talking too fast? It's alright. Fitness. Again, fitness is something where most people go wrong with myths. most people live in this area, okay, because it's the most fun. Yeah. So the reason it's the most fun is because if your heart rate gets up, it gets up to about 75%, and that's enough for your body to go, do you know what, I'm struggling a little bit now, I'm starting to sweat, I'm starting to get out of breath, and it's getting uncomfortable. So that's where everyone sort of sits there then, because that feels the best place to be. But realistically, most of my clients, we don't really work in this sort of area at all, to be honest, especially for the sort of clients that I've got. The majority of my clients work in Zone 5 or Zones 1 and 2. But we mentioned you. So Zone 5 is that short sprint, short hill sprint, the stuff which makes you want to be sick. It's the stuff which makes you doubt your life. It's the stuff which makes you sort of just quit training and quit your fitness altogether. It's unpleasant. So the reason why people don't like getting to that point makes sense, doesn't it? And the most people which say, oh, I do loads of Zone 5 work, probably aren't. Unless you're wearing a heart rate monitor and not a watch. We're talking like we're talking chest straps and things like that, which are more accurate. The chances are you're going to miss all of these zones altogether. So the other zone is this. So this is the most boring zone of all time. Okay, it's Zone 1 and 2. The majority of you have been doing Zone 1 or 2 all day. Yeah, you've been walking around, you've been pottering about, and you get to that point where, like this guy over here, this is sort of Zone 2 work. Okay, it's at that point where you still can hold a conversation, you can still walk, but the majority of your fitness should all come from this. Especially if it's for endurance sports, especially if it's for hiking, especially if it's for mountaineering or long distance treks, because that's the majority of where your stuff's going to go. But that being said, you don't want to miss the other zones out, because when them spikes do come up in heart rate, you don't want to be at that point where you go, oh, I'm not used to this, I don't know what's going on here. You want to be comfortable in all zones at all times. And the last one, injury prehab. So if you want to take a picture of this, feel free. So if you've got weak knees and ankles, you need stability and balance. So how many of you have actually stood on one leg before? Do you want to try? I've seen yours, Steve. The majority of probably when you did it was probably about 20, 30 years ago, when you actually spent some time working on balance. But single leg balances, so single leg squats, sitting down, standing up with a single leg, calf raises, step up, split squats, controlled lunges and reverse sled work, all brilliant for your knees and ankles. Okay? Hips and glutes, glute bridges, lateral band walks, deadlifts, squats, abduction and adduction machines. These are all going to be working your posterior chain, which in turn allows you to have stronger hips, stronger lower back, which means you can carry more load, which means you get less fatigue over a long period of time. And then your core and your lower back. The majority of people leave these to last, or they don't do it at all because it's boring. So a core and a lower back is not for getting abs for the beach. It's for allowing yourself to rotate and allowing yourself to have spinal stability and rotation without any sort of dramas. Has anybody had a lower back pain here before? Anyone at lower back? Got lower back pain? Yeah. So the majority of people will have had lower back pain before, and it's the majority of it comes from just not doing enough core work in general. It's from poor posture, for one. It's for the majority of people sitting down like you're sat down today, most of the day. You sat there with getting tight hip flexors, tight hamstrings, and then all of a sudden you start thinking, why am I low back bad? It's because you're not working those opposing muscle groups. So some more myths. There's a few things here which I'm going to go over, and I'd like to know, just put your hand up if you've fell into this trap before. So training over testing. The majority of people go into the gym and they try and test too much. They try and do too many PBs every week. They're trying to go for 1 rep maxes, or if they're doing 5Ks, they try and run a PB 5K every week. If they're doing 10Ks, it's going, well, I want to do a 10K PB. But the majority of that time, if you're always testing, you're not in that training point. Because like I said, when you do, if we're looking at the energy systems and the way we look at heart rate zones, then the majority of that isn't the testing stuff, it's not the fun stuff, it's the stuff which you're thinking, this isn't really making much difference, but I know some of you guys actually work with me and will know the difference that comes in. The top of the back, a lot of it's a bit boring, but it makes sense, doesn't it? It works. Mechanics over intensity. You should be able to have full range of motion on all of your joints before you're putting that through load or before you're putting it through too much intensity. So if, for example, you can't squat to a full depth, then there's obviously there's an issue there. There's something which is going on within the hips, within the back, or within the legs, which is not allowing you to get a full stable squat and to be able to get in a deep, full position, a full range of motion. If you're loading it up and loading more weight onto it, the chances are you're going to make that worse. Yeah? The more you make it worse, then eventually it will come round and bite you on the arse. Again, similar with the mechanics over intensity, quality over quantity. This is quite a big shock for my clients, to be honest, when they come on board with me, because we start to take things away from them at first, and I don't mean food and ice cream and things like that. I mean training sessions and training volume. A lot of them come to me not because they struggle to get to the gym, but because they're going to the gym enough and they're not getting the results that they want. And because of this, what's happening is the progress is getting lower and lower every time, and the more they do, the more they burn out, the more they get injured, and they just end up in this cycle just going round where they're not quite getting what they want from it. So what we do is we strip everything back, and I say, right, let's look at the quality of things over the quantity of things. Okay, so rather than how many squats can you do, we start thinking, how well can you actually squat first? Instead of thinking, how fast can you run, how well can you run first? Instead of thinking about how much weight you can lose or how much weight you can use, start thinking about, well, what's going on first with the foundations of what we're doing and the foundations of our lifestyle. Because this comes into the next point. More isn't better. We want to be working with the minimal amount of stimulus for the maximum amount of adaptation. The more stimulus there is, doesn't mean the more adaptation, doesn't mean the more we do, the more we progress. There's going to be a line of diminishing returns. So we'll have all been there, I've been there myself, where you're training hard, you get to a point where you sort of hit a peak, and then suddenly you start feeling ill, or you get an injury, or you start feeling run down, and it's because you've hit that point, you've gone too past the burner. You need to get to that point where you're training hard, which is the next bit, where you're training hard enough, but you're recovering well enough as well. So, hands up who's been a victim of overtraining. Yeah, train too hard, not done enough recovering. Now, I don't like the term overtraining, but I do like the term under recovering, because the majority of people that have overtrained, when you start asking about the recovery and you start prompting them about recovery, the majority of them aren't doing anything to actually recover. So they're putting a lot of effort in, so they're going from no hours of training a week to maybe 5 or 6 hours of training a week, but then not equaling that with any type of recovery whatsoever. So there's no stretching going on, they're not working on the sleep, the nutrition's still okay, hydration's still okay, stress at work and family life is still bad. So the recovery element of things is really poor. And then we get to that point where we're thinking, how can we push more with the training and get the results? Let's not think about the training, let's think about how you can recover. The majority of the stuff that you do, or the majority of the stuff which you adapt with, is going to come from your recovery, and that comes from things like stress management, nutrition management, your hydration, your sleep, all these other things which are going on outside of your training, which allow you to move forward and allow you to push harder with training, which allows you a bigger sort of return on your investment in the long term. So we've got two different methodologies. Now, what I was talking about earlier, you've got this old school methodology with old school athletes, which is just to do more of what you do. So, for example, hikers and mountaineers, they just say, do runs, do long runs, and go for more walks, weighted backpack walks and all that sort of stuff. That's cool, but, like I mentioned earlier, they all end up with weak backs, weak hips, weak knees, weak ankles, and the longevity in the sort of sport that they want to be in is then limited. So I split things down into two phases with my athletes. You've got GPP and you've got specificity. So GPP is general physical preparedness, that's in the off season. So if, for example, you was going to Kilimanjaro in 8 weeks, you probably won't be doing this bit, okay? The chances are you're going to more likely be in this part here. But for those guys of you which are coming with me to Kilimanjaro next year, you guys are going to be starting looking at this. Okay, so that's building a foundation of a capable body, broad, well-rounded fitness that prepares for a body of physical challenges, focuses on strength, aerobic capacity, mobility and durability, and it creates a base that allows support with almost any activity. So that goes back to our sort of original point of being able to say yes to anything, being able to say yes to whatever comes your way, whatever text comes your way, whatever adventure comes your way or opportunity, you should be able to go yes without thinking. Now, the specificity of it, that's when we start looking and dialing things in. So, for example, I had a guy text me the other day, it's one of my clients, a long-term client, he's been training with me for about a year now. He texted me yesterday and said, in fact, I'm going to do a 100-miler in July. Okay, so he's woke up and he's decided, I'm going to run 100 miles in this race in July in Switzerland or something like that. Right, that's cool, that's no problem, but now we need to start looking at this. The real specificity of that, because that's quite an extreme sort of target, isn't it? So we can't do this sort of bit of a general physical preparedness anymore. We need to really focus on what's specific for him, so he can perform in that very specific niche sport. So training for that exact demand. So you've got train that targets specific movements and demands of the activity. It refines performance once on a solid foundation is built and mimics the terrain, movement patterns and energy demands of the activity. So for this guy, for example, that will be then increasing the volume on his legs per week. It will then be supporting the muscles which are going to support him in those activities. So for example, there's no point in me going, right, okay, now we need to do really heavy leg days, because what's going to happen to his legs the next day? Not going to be able to run, he's going to need more recovery time, so we've got to take that into consideration. The volume of his strength work and the volume of his running volume over the week is now going to vary, and that's when things start to get a little bit more tailored to sort of like what people need in terms of speaking back and forth. Communication's really important, especially if you guys have got a coach. Make sure you are speaking to the person and making sure they know how you're feeling, because if you're feeling run down, you don't tell your coach, the chances are they're going to think everything's great, let's push harder. Whereas obviously that's not the best thing. We need to ramp things down in terms of recovery and start focusing on that rather than pushing forward. Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah.
That's it.
Okay, who's heard of this before? Motivation versus consistency. It's everybody's worst battle, isn't it? Motivation. It's the thing which stops people from doing the things they want to do, because in this day and age we're all driven by emotion. Well, in any day and age really, but now more than ever, because now more than ever we can have things at the click of a switch. Yeah, if we want a pizza, pizza's going to be there in an hour. Yeah, if you want a Chinese, it's going to be there in an hour. If you want something off Amazon, you can click it and it's going to be there.
We get it.
Yeah, it's going to be there immediately, isn't it? Even in the afternoon, you can have it in that same space. So the fact that we don't have to wait for anything anymore means that we're now built on emotion and having things immediately. Now, what happens then is, just put your hands up, for example. Who's felt motivated before? Who's had those mornings where you woke up and you've gone, do you know what? This is the week. I'm going to attack the week and I'm going to absolutely destroy things. This is me. I've changed my life forever. Yeah, put your hand up if you have. Yeah. We've all been there. How many people have watched the Rocky montage and then all of a sudden you want to start boxing? Yeah, you want to go for a run, you want people in the street to chase you. Yeah, you want to feel amazing and you think, right, this is it, I'm motivated. You feel great, don't you? You feel amazing. But then what happens a few days later? Don't feel like that anymore. Yeah, work's got in the way, stresses have got in the way, other things have got in the way, and suddenly you're going, do I really want it as much? I don't really care as much anymore. The majority of people are built on motivation. But motivation isn't something which comes and goes. Like I mentioned earlier, it's the Rocky montage, it's the things that make you go, do you know what, feel amazing. So today, for example, you might go away from the expo today after hearing different people speak, chatting to different people, looking at different people's endeavours and achievements and things. You might feel really motivated in the car home, start planning all your adventures in the car home. But then in a few days, you feel a bit rubbish again. You've got to remember to how you felt that day and start thinking, well, how did I get motivated? When I felt most motivated, how did that happen? It came from looking for it. So you've got to look for motivation. It's not something you generally wake up with. It's something which you find on YouTube, it's something you look for in podcasts, it's something you do by coming to events like this. It's something you have to go and chase. It's like a fire. If you let the fire go out, that's it. It's gone. You've got to keep fueling the fire. So if you've got so for example, the guys coming to Kilimanjaro with me next year, that's a long time to think about training. It's going to be about 14 months. It's a long time to think, I've got plenty of time for that. I've got plenty of time, but eventually it's going to come. Whether you train or not, that year is going to pass regardless.
That's the nature now.
So you've got to start thinking, how do I stay motivated all the way? How do I keep that Kilimanjaro trip, or whatever that trip is, or expedition, or event? How do you keep it in your mind at all times? How do you keep it in the forefront of your brain? Is it going to be simply a wallpaper on your phone? Is it a reminder on your phone? Is it something which is going to put a picture on the fridge? Is it just going to be listening to people talk about the place where you want to go, and you go on YouTube and listen to podcasts and listen to other explorers' expeditions? Whatever it is, it doesn't matter about where you get motivation. Whether it's listening to the Rocky soundtrack on the way to the gym, it does not matter. As long as it gets you out of bed, it gets you moving. That's all that it takes. But you've got to remember, when you've been thinking about work all day, or you've been thinking, right, I'm going to go to the gym tonight, and you've been sat there in work thinking about spreadsheets, thinking about presentations, thinking about other things which has got nothing to do with your goals, the chances of you wanting to go to the gym and having that forefront of your mind is not going to be there, is it? At that point, you're thinking about all the other things that have distracted you. So you've got to get yourself back into the mindset of the person that you want to be, and that's where the consistency element comes in. Doing a week of solid training and having 3 months off is not as good as just training once a week for 3 months. Does that make sense? You're going to have much more benefits over the long term for that. So we're coming to the end, guys, and this is something which I've felt for a long time, obviously going back to the full circle at the beginning, but don't settle for average. Okay, you're all sat here because you're either interested in the book in this company, you're either interested in what I've got to say, you're interested in all the different things going on here at the expo today, and you're probably in that position where you want a more adventurous life. You're starting to think about, what else could I actually do? All this time that I've potentially wasted or not done enough of what I thought I should be doing, not on the path that you want to be on. But the probability of you existing at all has been estimated by researchers at roughly 1 in 400 trillion. So just take that into account for a minute. The odds of winning the UK National Lottery are 1 in 45 million. And being struck by lightning in the UK is estimated in 1 in 1.2 million. Anybody here been struck by lightning? No? Anybody here won the lottery? No? But the chance of you being alive and being sat here right now is like it's not even, you can't even think about that. It's just not worth thinking about. So you are the luckiest things or beings in the universe right now to have not only consciousness, but the ability to choose things, the ability to choose what you do with your life, and to get to the point where you perhaps get to 80 or 90 years old and you've got a life of stories of doing things that you wanted to do, instead of going, do you know what, I'm glad I spent so much time scrolling on my phone, I'm glad I spent so much time watching Netflix, doing the things that you want to do. And if you're not ready to do it right now, put a marker for when you are going to do it, okay? So I'm not saying go and join the gym right now, this second, do it tomorrow. I'm not saying that, because obviously you've got to be ready for these sorts of things to a certain degree. But there does have to be a deadline, okay? I think it's Parkinson's law. Everything with a deadline gets done. Okay guys, so if you've enjoyed the talk today, or you're interested in a little bit more, I appreciate sort of asking questions now is a bit daunting for a lot of people. So you can find me on Instagram, it's Northern Coach. You can find me on YouTube, which is Fitness and Adventure. Trying to put a lot of effort into YouTube recently, which hence Owen's here doing filming YouTube for me today.